So, welcome back. I hope we have gone and understood through the Linux kernel architecture. So, let's begin with the next module, that is Linux networking. And talking about networking, so in Linux, in the user space, the abstraction of network communication is the socket. The socket abstracts the communication channel and is the kernel based TCP IP stack interaction interface. An IP socket is associated with an IP address. The transport layer protocol is used like TCP, UDP, etc. and a port. Common functions that you use are like creation of socket, initialization, that is bind, connecting to connect, waiting for the connection, listening, accepting, closing. So these are the all things that are happening. Closing a socket, listening to that. Network communication is accomplished via read or write or receiving and sending calls for TCP sockets or from or to UDP sockets. The transmission and reception operations are transparent to the application, leaving encapsulation and transmission over network at kernel's discretion. However, it is possible to implement the TCP and IP stack in user space using raw sockets. So moving on further with Linux networking, this was little bit about the networking with the user space. So let's go on further and explore what is with Linux network overview. Here you see that Linux is designed on the concept of computer as a collection of devices. Devices are accessed via the slash dev directory. A device driver is software that knows how to communicate with the device. So on the right hand side, you can see in from the user space, like the process is happening via system call. It's through the Linux kernel. It interacts with sockets. The TCP/IP protocol is used. Then the network devices interact with the networking hardware layer. So this is how the process goes along. Linux networking devices differ from most of the other devices in several ways that they are installed in Linux kernel. Networking in Linux is handled by the kernel and can refer to the software as well as the hardware. So this is about the Linux network overview. Moving on to the next, and I hope this is understood by everyone. If not, please write into the chat section. And yes, thank you, Kunal. Yeah, I got to know. I'm glad to know that you have understood this Linux network overview. So understanding different networking devices in Linux, and I hope you people have gone through the Linux basic, you have seen the commands and you know what are the device names. If not, we will discuss it here that what are the networking devices names and what description they give all along. So first you can see that there is something written as ETH0. So anybody from your side who wants to go with what is ETH0? Anybody knows what is ETH0? Yeah, the names, it is showing that it is the first Ethernet NIC. And ETH0, okay, these are the Ethernet card interfaces. Is the first NIC card, Ethernet NIC card, and they are used for most Ethernet cards, like including many of the parallel ports Ethernet cards. Next is TR0. These are the token ring cards interfaces. They are used for most token ring cards, including non-IBM manufactured cards. Next is point-to-point protocol, that is PPP0. These are the PPP interfaces, just like the SLIP interfaces. A PP interface is associated with the serial line once it is converted to PPP mode. That is point-to-point protocol mode. And talking about SLIP, SLIP interfaces are associated with the serial line in order in which they are allocated for SLIP. So that is the SLIP and parallel line interfaces. These are the parallel line internet protocol interfaces. it transports IP datagrams over parallel lines. The interfaces are allocated by flip driver at a system boot time and are mapped onto parallel ports. In the 2.0.x kernels, there is a direct relationship between the device name and the IO port of the parallel port. But in later kernel, the devices named are allocated sequentially, just as for SLIP and PPP devices. So this is a little bit about SLIP and FLIP. I hope you understood till now. And what is ARCnet? ARC0, so attached resource computer network. It is for the communication protocol for local area networks. It was first widely available for networking system for microcomputers. Mostly became popular from 1980s for office automation tasks. So that's about the ARCnet. And what is a FDDI? FDDI is NICAD is used mainly in mission critical and high traffic networks where large amount of data flow needs to flow quickly and efficiently. FDDI is used anywhere that utilizes a large network in need of high bandwidth. So that's about the FDDI, Nick. And frame relay, as we know, frame relay is a simplified form for packet switching. So that is used in which synchronous frames of data are routed to different destination depending upon the header information. So that is a frame relay. DLCI0, that is a device name. And that is IPPP0, that is Integrated Services Digital Network ISDN modem, that I hope everyone knows. ISDN modem is basically referred to as Integrated Services Digital Network, and it is used for transmission of data as well as voice and video. It is a part of modern day telephone system and is demanded all across the country. So yes, these are the different device names and the description given. Anybody having any doubt can write into the chat section, and let's move on further after this. If nobody has any doubts, let me see. Yes, nobody has any doubts, and yeah, thank you, Karan, for you're paying attention to this device names, the networking that we are going through, the Linux part of advanced administration. And yeah, I hope you people are getting till now. This is the understanding of different devices in networking in Linux. So yes, moving on to the next, it's the basic network commands that you should know. So to display any IP configuration of interfaces, you have to know the IP address or any other configuration. We go with ifconfig in Linux. So this is the command that you can run first to know on which ethernet NIC card is there, which port it is on working on, what are the IP configuration of the interfaces. The next is set the IP address for internet ETH1. So interface for ETH1 is set by, or if you want to go for ETH02, you can just change the name over here where you see in the basic network commands, that is ifconfig. Then ETH1, that is the interface. Then you give your IP name, then the netmask and your netmask ID, that is 255.255.240.0. And yes, this is how we set the IP address for internet interface ETH1. The same goes for the other interfaces by giving its name. Then the IP link show. So it shows list of network interfaces. So list of network interfaces is shown with link IP link show. And LSHW, that is list hardware. So you get a hardware information of that network card hyphen class space network. So LSHW space hyphen class space network. That is how you get an information about which network card is being used. Is it a data link? Is it a Realtek? So this is how this basic network commands are working. I hope you people go through this, execute your commands. Yes. So moving next with Linux Network Manager tool. So what is a Linux Network Manager tool? What it generally does? So it generally is handy when you want to turn on or off a network adapter, editing an existing network card, or to change the IP address assigned. So this is the icon for Linux Network Manager tool, and this exactly does a general help to us, that it is useful for turning off or on the network adapters, existing network cards, editing, changing the IP address assigned. So this is what we do with the Linux Network Manager tool. Here, the manual provides the following tools, that is NMCLI, the dedicated command line tool used in order to configure, add, edit, and remove the connections using the network manager. So you can do anything with your connections. You can configure, remove, edit those using your network manager. This is the tool suite overall. NMTUI, a graphical user interface that provides just a subset of features compared to NMCLI. It's a TUI and a CLI, just a difference between those. So, network manager with help of the following tools. In TUI, a graphical UI is provided, and NM applet. So, it is available in Genome desktop environments. So, when you go and just check out for your Genome desktop environments, it is available for that. So, an example on the right hand side, a graphical user interface, you can see it's given a TUI. So you just can edit your connection, you can activate your connection, set a system host name for that, can follow perform this functions through this tool suite. So yeah, moving on to the next is manager commands, Linux network manager command. The first command we need to is to install the network manager, and then you need to start the service for network manager. So the first command you go for is yum install network manager and a -y. So everybody must know that a -y stands to install all the packages, dependencies through across. So yeah, we go with yum install. The next is the service network manager start. So we start the services, and it says okay, redirecting to the /bin/systemctl and is starting network manager service. After that, NMCLI dev status, you have to see the dev status for that. What are the devices? What is the type? Is the status connected or not? What is the connection according to that for ETH0 or a wired connection? So yes, so we can see a loopback is also there. So this is how we see the dev status for with the NMCLM, and the device shows. So the next is it also shows the device show, like what device is being going through ETH01 LO. So that is NMCLI device show. So please go through this Linux network manager commands. So this is what we went across, the commands, the network manager suite. Then we saw what is exactly networking with the Linux kernel. So let's take a break over here.